it's the future, stable coins, whether Ripple is as good or better than PayPal or, Circle, etc. It's all around user adoption and what we as the people and businesses decide to do. So I think, there's still a long way to go before we get to that. I think stable coins are such a low percentage of the money out there.
This content is brought to you by BitGo, which is one of the top crypto custodians in the crypto industry. BitGo works with many big companies and brands, such as Pantera Capital, Bitstamp, and Bitcoin IRA. Nike also selected BitGo to power its wallets for its NFTs. And BitGo has many great services, such as hot wallets, custodial wallets, self-managed cold wallets, and NFT wallets. Many institutions trust BitGo with its top-level security and incredible services, such as being able to deploy your capital while it's in custody, which includes lending, borrowing, trading, staking, DeFi access, and more. If you'd like to learn more about BitGo, please visit bitgo.com, link in the description. Welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast. I'm your host, Tony Edward, and with me today is Antony Welfare, who's the CEO and founder of the Commercializing Blockchain Research Center, known as the CBRC. Antony, welcome.
Hi, Tony. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, Antony, excited to speak with you. You're building some cool things and you've got a lot of experience in crypto. So want to get your perspectives on different items. Let's start with your background, where you're from and what's your professional background?
Yeah, so I've been, I'm actually from a retail background from a long time. So we had a family shop it was actually from 1924. So it's 100 years. Doesn't exist in the family now, unfortunately. But around about 7-8 years ago, I moved into crypto and blockchain. I was previously in retail career, as I said, and what is this blockchain, this Bitcoin and blockchain, and Ethereum was just coming out in 2016 or so. So it was like, well, why aren't we using this in retail and global retailers? I was working with global brands, and it's like payments, really easy, one currency, tracking products and those sorts of things. So I joined Oracle Corporation back in 2016-17. Did a few projects with them, launching track and trace, some enterprise blockchain solutions, and moved to DXC Technology. I was global managing director for the blockchain practice, and there we did around about 50 projects on enterprise blockchain, track and trace, payments, anything tokenization of bonds and securities and all this. And bearing in mind, this is like 5 years ago or so. It was really interesting, but everything in enterprise was about enterprise blockchain, Hyperledger Fabric, and Corda, really. Ethereum was try not to use it. So I was sort of thinking, look, we need public blockchain and the whole, bigger picture of hybrid blockchain. So in 2019, I think it was around about then, I moved to NEM protocol, and we launched Symbol platform, which was a hybrid enterprise platform for big business, but the public and private, which is really important for blockchain success. And then in 2020, summer 2020, I ended up joining Ripple. So I joined Ripple looking after CBDCs and stablecoins, and spent around about 3 years at Ripple, sort of moving the whole CBDC world from, crypto, is it good, is it bad, through to actually working with central banks, which was amazing experience, because you're from a crypto basis, but you're talking to some of the most important people in the world, central banks. They control our money, they control everything that we do. So really interesting time. And then obviously I'm on to CBRC now.
And you did spend some time working on Ethereum, you mentioned, and you were a founding member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, is that right?
Yeah, so back in, I think, 2016-17, Enterprise Ethereum Alliance was just being started, and I sort of was in retail, and I was like, why don't we do supply chain with Ethereum? And so I joined as sort of one of the founding members, but looking after or set up the supply chain working group in the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. It didn't last long. I moved on to Oracle and things changed, and I couldn't do much. But it was to try and get the sort of whole supply chain and Ethereum working together, which was again a bit ahead of its time, I think, but really interesting project to work on.
I mean, that's amazing. You were part of Ethereum, you're at Ripple, you did some work with NEM. That's a lot of experience I'm sure you accrued over those years working on these big projects. So, how did the idea for the CBRC come about?
Yeah, so Commercializing Blockchain Research Center is from the book that I wrote in 2019, which is Commercializing Blockchain. So back in 2019, between Oracle and DXC, I was thinking, people need to understand a bit more about enterprise blockchain and less about crypto in the big business world. And so I've got 13 contributors that said, let's write about what's actually happening, real use cases back in, sort of 3, 4 years ago. So they were around finance and supply chain, really. So same sort of narrative back then. And then fast forward to sort of 2024, and it's like, well, that's great, the book's great, but there's been a lot of use cases since then, and things have progressed.
Hmm.
Bigger, more scaled, NFTs have come in, DeFi, all this sort of new stuff. So to be fair, Wiley was saying write another book. And if you've written a book, Tony, it's hard work. It's a lot of time, and I don't think people really appreciate how much work goes into, just a few bits of paper. So I thought, actually, why don't I set up a research center and make the book live, inverted commas. So we've basically set up the CBRC register. So it's a use case register. And what that is basically we research the blockchain projects, so actual projects. They could be, pilot, launch, but they're actually, give or take, there's some reality about the project in some way. It's been used, it's been launched, it's piloted, etc. We've got a scoring criteria. So basically, it's not about what's good, what's bad. It's about blockchain applicability. So 100, the maximum's 100. If you scored 100, that means your project is perfect for blockchain. It's not about it's the best project. It might be a terrible project commercially and things like that. But if it's using blockchain for the reasons, that blockchain's set up. So it's basically a resource now where you can go to it, research, have a look at what's happening. It's sort of sorted by layer one, so you can check Ethereum or XRP Ledger, Bitcoin, etc. And then by sort of category, track and trace, financial transactions, those sorts of things. So there's around about 100 use cases that, we did a soft launch back in February, and then there's about 10 verified. Now, the verified use cases are the really interesting ones. So that means that our team has scored them, verified them, spoken to the project team, and then myself, one of the senior team, has actually done an interview and a video. And I think that sort of gives you then a real life. It's about a half an hour video of talking to the founders or the project team. What did you do? Why did you do it? How does it work? Why are you using blockchain? And anybody sort of into blockchain and setting these things up now, it's really interesting because you can see some of these people, some I've known for a few years, and they're actually using blockchain and have been for a long time. So it's a really useful place to find out about real blockchain in the real world.
I love that idea because, there's so much noise in this industry, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, it is what it is, right? It comes with the territory. And if I'm a business and I'm looking for blockchain solutions, I want to filter through that noise. I want to come to a site like yours to be able to validate a project and go through that learning and discovery process. And you're doing a lot of the vetting. So that's really great. And then I can filter by the use cases. So if I want to use it like tracking and supply chain management or whatever else, right? I have that resource.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's the point of it there, so that people don't, it's hard to find real projects in the noise because crypto is the noisy part of
Yeah.
blockchain. Fair call, it's about money, speculation, etc. But the interesting thing we've done recently is we've signed an agreement with a European university, and they're going to take the scoring metrics and build a scoring panel. So basically, the CBRC score will then be not my team, but it will be a wider team of academics and experts. So probably by the end of this year, hopefully by the end of 2024, we'll have that set up so that then you'll start to see more projects can come through, because at the moment we're restrained with resource. Everything, life is all about resources and how you can get through these. So we've now got a process working. They're looking at AI, how we can automate some of these things. And basically they're going to put together a team that can score this. And so we can have more and more projects on it. So you can even check more details and see more about it. Because my world has always been, what is blockchain and why is it being used? That's what I set, off in 2016 to do. And I've seen a million projects, it feels like, but still everybody goes, blockchain doesn't do anything, or blockchain is Bitcoin. And it's like, no, there is so much to it. So it's give people this real resource that's referenced, and with the university, it'll be academically verified, which is, a really good process, step forward.
Absolutely. And then you have, in addition to your scoring system, it's certificates, right? And it's issued on the XRP Ledger.
Yeah, exactly. So the projects that are scored, they then get a verified certificate, and it's verified via the XRP Ledger. So in essence, there's a PDF certificate which doesn't sit on chain because it's not good to put things like that on chain at this stage. But there's a reference on XRP Ledger of the project, the score, and just a little bit of information, and it gives you then a real immutable, truth that this project scored this and is this type of project. So it's using blockchain for one of its sort of, most basic uses, but notarization, certification of things. Imagine if we had this on the likes of LinkedIn for our qualifications and things. You get your university, your college qualifications, but does anyone really know that you went there? Does anyone really know you did these things? So blockchain, back in 2016, this was one of the first things I thought. And I remember I did one of my first presentations in 2017. And I said, LinkedIn will disappear because everything will be verified on chain. LinkedIn's still around and it's not verifying yet, but the technology is there to do it. And I think as we progress now in the next, few years, I think it'll start to grow. I think enterprise blockchain is growing significantly quicker than people think. And that's what the register helps to show you. There's a lot more happening than you realize.
A quick follow-up question on that LinkedIn thought, because this is something I've been thinking about as well, where we need social profiles in the blockchain because there's so many fake accounts, there's so many bots, there's so many impersonators. Having a podcast and a brand, I get so many people impersonating me trying to scam people. But if there was a way for people to verify with the blockchain integrated, behind the scenes, there's a one-click dialogue, or this has a check mark, it's verified on the blockchain, and people can look at that, that would change the social media internet world significantly.
Yeah, massively. I think the verification of truth, the verification of, information is the next stage. And I think you need AI to do that though as well. I think this is where the two merge together. And I know there's a lot of hype in AI. And I'm not necessarily saying AI should be valued at what it's valued at, etc. But if you use AI on information that's that's verified on the blockchain, then you're actually using information that's more verified. And I was interested, I was with a professor from Singapore University a few weeks ago, and I was talking to, he's an AI expert. And I was saying, how do we marry this? How do we get rid of fake news? How do we prove that Tony's, interview is Tony's interview? And he said, well, what will happen eventually is things that are real will be tagged as non-AI or something. And again, that's where you can probably use blockchain to say this is verified by a person, and use it in that way. And even you can use timestamps and everything. So the technology's there. It's about making it easy for us to use. And I'm not sure that piece has been thought through yet, but there's a lot of people looking at that now because it's definitely the most important thing of, fake news and people stealing, social media and content. It's a massive issue. But if every piece of data, video, photography was sort of embedded in blockchain from the moment it's published,
Right.
you can always then track it back to where it is. And I think that process is the bit that needs to be worked on because of the scale. I dread to think that the size of whatever they're called, gigabytes, zettabytes, whatever, of data. So you need something that's going to be very clever. And I think AI will probably help to do that piece of information. So as soon as you hit, pause on the record or you publish this video, it gets tagged.
Mm.
And then the credit always goes back to Tony, and then we know it's a real video. So definitely next few months, I think we'll see more interesting projects and sort of progress in that.
And when do you think, this is a harder question, is a tipping point for these Web2 companies like LinkedIn and the social networks to transition fully to Web3 where they have the blockchain integration? Is it like 5 to 8 years away, or you think it happens sooner?
It depends on us, the people, the citizens and humans, what we trust and what we don't trust.
Mm.
So if we keep on using Facebook or LinkedIn or whichever, and just blindly agreeing with it and signing up to those million pages of terms and conditions that basically means nothing's yours and you've given everything away, which is insane, and we're going to sell your data. And unfortunately, as humans as the whole, we're doing that. So I unfortunately think you're probably talking nearer the 8 years rather than nearer to 5 years. I think the technology will be there. Interesting in crypto world, there's quite a few sort of blockchain-based social medias that have been out. I mean, there was, back in 2017, I think it was called Stream or something like that, Streamer. I think it's still around, but it was not easy to use. It was awful. So,
Okay.
so why would you use it? And I think that's still the hook with a lot of things in crypto. It's like, I don't want a MetaMask to make a payment. I just want to make a payment like I do with my credit card. I
Right.
don't want to have to log on to. I remember with Stream, I lost my account because it's on a laptop somewhere, and it's that wallet, and that's it. And it wasn't transportable. I couldn't have it on my phone. So those things need to be fixed first. Then I think mass adoption. And I don't know what Meta is doing, Facebook, with the millions, billions that they've spent, but they should really just be looking at how to implement blockchain as the base. It would be so much cheaper and easier for them because they've already got the clients. They've got we all use Facebook, Twitter, or Facebook or WhatsApp. So,
Hmm.
but definitely, it's not as quick as I would want. But it's going to progress, and it all depends on us and what we decide. If we all stop using Facebook, they'll have to change.
Oh yeah.
Fortunately, they won't.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Now tell us a bit more about the scoring system for the different companies. Is it like a 50-point checklist? What are some of the things that you look at to validate these companies?
Yeah, so there's 10 sort of metrics, and there's a scale for the metrics of sort of 1 to 5. So it's things like so if you look at one of the metrics is around, are there lots of data silos in different companies? Okay, so if it's, a one is like, no, there's just one data silo. Great, you don't need blockchain for that. Then number 5 would be there's data silos in 300 different companies, and trying to connect that data and stuff is, yeah, blockchain would be amazingly useful for that. So there's different sort of measures. There's around about 10 metrics, and then the scales are sort of a lot more detailed than the high level that I said, but they go through to that sort of checking. So again, as I said, it's around blockchain applicability rather than this is a great, amazing project. It's not about validating a project, it's validating its use of blockchain.
Mm, yeah, that makes sense. And when you approach the different blockchain projects out there, how are you pitching them about this? And is there a fee that they have to pay?
Yeah, so at this stage, there's no fee because we don't want to be seen to be, taking money to do scores and things like that. So there's no fee at the moment. We need to work on how we fund the business model going forward, though, so that may or may not change. But they're sort of interested because it's exposing the project in a very easy to see way. So it's PR for them, but it's also the academic side of what would the university going to do. They're actually going to put analysis together of how we can analyze these better, how we can deep dive on them, how we can learn more from them. So they're data knowledge centers, so they can do that sort of process. So, and I think people are interested because I've got a great story, and it's one of the use cases that we'll be publishing soon. But back in the day, in my DXC days, I worked with one of the biggest car companies in the world, and we pitched to them. And that then went through, and IBM actually won the project and then built this supply chain tracking system. That was back in 2017. Now that project has morphed, and it's now going to be tracking planes and trains and parts and different things. And it's not just one car company, it's a whole set of sort of consortiums. So it's really interesting how that's gone from one tiny project to a very big project and very successful. And they want to tell the story because most people still think that blockchain projects are failing and things are not going well. And this is like, I didn't even know this, and I knew the people back in 2017. So I was quite surprised to talk to them a few weeks ago and say, wow, this is light years different from what it was, and really interesting. So I think people are wanting to tell the story of why this is real. And, this is not a judgment. This is a score that says this is why blockchain's good and not. And a lot of the reason for the scoring of blockchain applicability is lots of projects have failed because blockchain wasn't used properly. And so if you go back over the last 3, 4, 5 years, and there's lots of people will tell you this failed, and this failed. My first response is, should it have been on blockchain? Should you use blockchain technology in the first place? And a lot of the answers are no. And I think a lot of the consortiums that have failed have been because of, one, the wrong blockchain, i.e. private blockchain versus public, and two, the wrong incentive model. They were doing it to try and control a network, which is what corporates do. Whereas blockchain is not about controlling a network, it's about trusted information and sharing things. So again, if the incentive model, the motivations are not there, project's going to fail. And I think that's why this is good, and that's why people are coming out going, our project is successful and it's done this, and it's like, great. What are the benefits? One of the sections is, what are the benefits? What did you do? What did you learn from it? And I think that's why people are sort of interested in talking to us.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And as you're talking about, the business model, revenue model, and so forth, I thought maybe this would be a great not-for-profit type organization that works with governments, given that what you're doing is bring a lot of validity, clarity, and I'm sure governments are going to want to have a resource like this of vetted projects, vetted use cases that they can advocate for too, depending on what it is.
No, definitely. I think that was, I was at the university a couple of days ago, and one of the things we're talking about is the 3-year plan and what does this look like in 3 years? And the university very much saying, we see 25 universities looking after this and funding this in different ways. So I think less government, more academia, but the same thing as you're saying. It's it'd be probably an academic resource because they're the people that know the latest trends and data analysis, and then and they're inherently, most of them are public anyway. So it sort of naturally goes through. So I think that seems to be the way we're looking at it. Obviously, we're still early stages, but I think, it's free there. It's sort of out there. And I think the university have been from day one talking to me saying it has to stay as free as possible all the way through. And I'm like, okay, we need to work on how to do that, but happily open to that. Because for me, again, my remit, my sort of motivation here is I want people to not go, what is blockchain? Why is it working? It's like, can I use blockchain for this? Great. I've got a new idea. Can I use blockchain for that? Brilliant. I've got this. Can I do that? And actually just start building using blockchain for the right reasons. because there'll be massive adoption. People will then be at the social media, which you mentioned before, where there'll be social media sites that are starting to do this because lots of people are using it and lots of people can see the benefits and success. So I think that's the main sort of motivation and reason for myself. And I think as crypto is becoming less, unacceptable, I think is a nice way to put it. What's been over the last 2 or 3 years or so, before that, sort of now it's becoming more acceptable, and ETFs and things like that, which I know are financial, but they give it credibility a bit more now, and mainstream people go, this is okay. And I think the more that happens, the better. And for me, the more when my mum says, do you still work in that dodgy industry? When she stops saying that, and she says things like, I saw Bitcoin crashed. Are you poor now? Do you? No. So once we get that through, I think we'll be in a good stage.
Absolutely. And I've gotten those comments too from my wife and my mom too.
Yeah, when they never ask you when Bitcoin goes up, do they? They're not interested then. It's when it goes down, it's like, are we bankrupt now? No,
But and man, Anthony, I love the idea because, I have a lot of experience in Web 2 and digital marketing, and I understand content marketing and building online resources for people to find information and be educated. And I think this is very much needed in filtering out all the noise as mentioned. So it's really cool. What's on your 2024 roadmap? Are you looking to build an app or anything else?
No, at this stage, the 2024 is all about working out the scoring panel and the scoring system because I can't really get many more submissions without it's a lot of admin and a lot of process. It's very manual today. So I want the rest of this year for the team to automate things, get it working so that we can accept more use cases and score more use cases and verify more use cases because everybody's starting to ask, well, what about this one? What about that one? It's like, well, we're getting some traction, which is amazing, but I've got to get the ground floor now fixed and sort of get a strong basis of verification and scoring. Once that's in, then next year will be all about getting more and more use cases in, and then we'll start to be able to do some analysis and some reporting and what's happening here, which are interesting, which are moving forward. What are the types of benefits, all that good stuff that's in there, the information's there. We'll actually have it at scale that's sort of, statistically useful for businesses and people.
Mm, I love it. And you mentioned like you're using the XRP Ledger. Is there any other blockchains are you going to integrate or are you going to stick with the XRP Ledger?
So at this stage, XRP Ledger is just for verification. So any blockchain in essence can do verification on certificates. So we're sticking with XRP Ledger at the moment. It's quick and cheap. It does a very good job. It's easy enough to use. So yeah, we're definitely sticking with that. It doesn't mean anything to do with the projects that are verified, etc. It doesn't mean they're anything to do with XRP and things like that. It's just that's the verification platform that we're using.
Hmm. Let's talk about the crypto market at large. Obviously, Anthony, you've been here a long time. You've seen a lot of things in this industry. What are your thoughts on the Bitcoin ETF launches, the performance we've seen? And now there's an Ethereum ETF coming up. There's talks of Solana and XRP, but it seems crypto has gone mainstream.
Yeah, I think I think it's still going mainstream. I think we're at the start of that piece. So definitely, we're out of the sort of this is not good, this is a scam and all that old school sort of discussion. And then the Bitcoin ETF, there was actually lots of ETF style sort of products already out there before the American sort of signal. But America being the biggest financial market, that's a massive stamp of approval and a tick in the box. So I think I was actually looking just before at some of the inflows and stuff, and it's actually impressive for the scale of the inflows to Bitcoin, considering the noise that's still out there. There's still, it's not highly positive like gold, for example, where everybody's gold is amazing. it's still, 50-50 maybe, of where people are positive, negative on it. So to get the growth of inflows and outflows are not bad. There's going to be outflows. That's the whole point of an ETF, though. It's not just one way. And it doesn't seem to be too bad process. So I think, Ethereum's obviously the one people are in July now, so people are expecting it in July. I think personally, I think that'd be great if that goes through because I'm an Ethereum long time. So
Right.
I'm fingers crossed for that one. But also, I think people also, if you're a sophisticated investor, you can invest in this back a long time ago. And
Right.
in my UK pension in 2017, I invested in the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETP, I think it's called, back in the day.
Mhm.
Um, and I could invest my UK regulated pension where there's only certain things you can invest in. So this is not me just investing. This is the UK regulated pension. And I invested back in 2017,
Mhm.
both Ethereum and Bitcoin. Now, the interesting thing, it then got closed. It didn't get closed, it got stopped so that you couldn't invest, you could only sell
Mhm.
until the Bitcoin ETF. And now it's open and you can buy and sell it again now. So it's actually quite strange in a way that something was regulatory legal in the UK in a pension back in 2017, had 3 or 4 years where you couldn't do anything, and now he's back again. So there's definitely been ways to sort of do this, which is probably why I've been less excited about an ETF because I'm like I've been sort of doing that inadvertently. I didn't actually realize that was the way it was, but it was actually 2018 I invested because I actually invested after the Hinman the very well-known Hinman
Oh
speech,
yeah.
which the SEC basically, told me at that day that Ethereum's okay, it's legal, and I can't remember the exact phrasing he used, but that was when I invested in the pension, because I'm not going to damage my pension. That's one of
Right.
the most secure, important financial products that you have in your life. So I think, I think. I believe Ethereum goes through, say, this month over summer. Maybe it goes to September for whatever reasons, no idea. And then I think the other ones will be just a matter of course. I think it's just then a process because there's no reason not to. I think as long it then comes down to is there the market for it? Is there demands? It goes into a normal business. So I think, Bitcoin's been the pioneer as ever. Ethereum's the second biggest and probably the most used. So great that then sort of backs up the Bitcoin ETF. And then the rest of them are going to be, well, it's likely to go in, market cap top 10 type sort of process. But I think some of the others could be more interesting because if there's demand for, a number 20 market cap, then these financial institutions or businesses, they'll go, people want an ETF for XYZ coin, let's bring it in. So I think there'll be some interesting ones further down the line, but I think, fingers crossed it's Ethereum gets sorted now, and I think that opens the doors for the next probably not until 2025, but I think because you need the election and things now to settle down. But
Yeah.
assuming that all goes well, then 2025, I assume you'd see some more.
Yeah, and we've seen outside the United States, a lot of these project products have existed, like you mentioned, like you were able to access some of them years ago. It's just in the United States, there's been a lot of hurdles, but it seems we're making some progress. Um, I did want to get your thoughts on CBDCs and stablecoins because obviously you have a plethora of experience there, working at Ripple and so forth, engaging with central banks.
Yeah.
Couple questions. I guess, you're no longer with Ripple, but how are the conversations going with central banks? Are they much more open to CBDCs and are they really heads down working on these things?
Yeah, I think so. Not from a Ripple perspective, but in general, CBDCs, there's progress happening, and you see it really with the European banks and a little bit with LATAM and Brazil, I'd say. So ECB's got a lot of work going forward, and Switzerland, similar but slightly different jurisdiction. And I think Switzerland actually announced last week they did a settlement of a bond with a digital sort of Swiss franc type scenario. So they're actually, quite ahead of most of the countries. ECB is still in the sort of development sort of phase and sort of working things out, but they're moving forward to looking at technology in the next, I think it's end of this year into next year, of how they build it. So the LATAM, as I mentioned, Brazil, but a lot of countries in LATAM, Colombia and all those other countries, they're all looking at different types of CBDCs and stablecoins as well. And I think a lot of people focus on CBDC, and I sort of sit there going, it's interesting, it's important because it's the top, it's the most, but actually all the money you've got in your wallet and your accounts is not CBDC. It's actually commercial bank money. So 95% of the money in circulation in most countries is actually commercial bank money. The dollars you have in your pocket are the only CBDC equivalent. It's not digital, but the only CBDC we have. And so lots of people are talking about CBDCs, but actually it's only going to be 5% of your money, if at all. It's only going to be your small spending and things like that. And I question why you would ever use it that much. Whereas a stable coin or a digital version, a digital dollar, digital pound, the commercial bank side of it, that's the interesting bit. And that's where the traction's starting to grow. And people talk about tokenized deposits and, stable coins, as we said. That is where the growth is. And I think that's where people need to sort of pay more attention. Less on the CBDC because you don't use it that much and you don't need to. You actually don't need to. We can live our lives without a CBDC, whereas commercial bank money, which is the money in your bank today and in your wallets, and not in your physical wallet, but your digital wallets, that's what's important. And obviously, MiCA regulations just come in Europe, just launched a couple of days ago. Still new, still lots to do, I'd say, with it. But it was very interesting that USDT is not, I wouldn't say it's not illegal yet. It's not allowed, let's say, in Europe. So I trade with Uphold, Bitstamp, all of those. USDT has been removed.
Right.
The only US dollar stablecoin is USDC and PayPal stablecoin. They're the only ones. And because in Europe, you have to have a money transfer license, an EMI license is called. So basically, you need to be, in essence, a regulated institution, which Circle and obviously PayPal are. So I think that's more interesting what's happening there, because are we all going to, in Europe, start using USDC and EuroC? Obviously, they have a euro equivalent. Interestingly, not a lot of people use EuroC. And I think that's where the crypto world comes in, because we all work in dollars. When you quote the price of Bitcoin, you always say dollars. I would say dollars, even though I live in Europe, or when I lived in the UK. I would always quote Bitcoin, $30,000, $50,000. So it's going to be interesting, this whole stablecoin and regulated stablecoins, non-regulated stablecoins, and backed by different things. That's what we need to look at. And the big banks, the Citibanks, HSBCs of the world, they're starting to look at that, because that's when the change will happen. And that's when things like, how does MasterCard and the money, the credit card, the American Express, how do they all work if we move to digital money, digital currency? Because do we need the ends of the sort of the process? How do we do transactions? Because you and I know, because we're crypto people, I can show my QR code of my wallet and you can send me a Bitcoin. I'll do it if you want, by the way. If you want to send me a Bitcoin. And that's P2P end to end, we're done. And we know, within a few seconds, if it's on XRP, it's cleared, and Bitcoin takes, an hour or so at the moment. But how does that work in the new world? And I think that's the bits that's been thought through. So at a CBDC level, there's lots of understanding around that, and back to the digital euro as well. The ECB has said privacy is number one. So you don't need to know the ends of the transaction for, say, $5, €5, $5. That's not the figure yet, but there'll be things so you can buy your coffee and things. And I always say to people, don't people get a lot of concerned and annoyed about privacy of CBDC on this. The central bankers don't care that you're buying a coffee. They really don't care that you're buying coffee and doing things. They care about if you're money laundering $20,000 or, doing things that you shouldn't be doing. That's what they care about, and so it's a bit of education. I think central banks don't have the best positivity at the moment, let's say, globally, I think. And I have to say, Jerome Powell is literally just outside the window, not physically standing there, but he's in Sintra in Portugal, which is next to where I live. And yesterday he was at the ECB presidents are all over there at the moment talking policy, etc. And he actually said on Bloomberg that the something about the central banks respect from the people is still at a very high level. And I thought, yeah, and obviously on x.com, Twitter, there's a very different view on that. So I think there is this issue around CBDCs and privacy, which has been blown out of all proportion. I would be more worried about my privacy of my bank and my stable coin and whatever they do, because they're then going to be in control of my privacy.
So
very different.
Sorry, quick question on that. So are you envisioning that the CBDCs they launch will be wholesale? So that'll be between the Fed and the banks, the commercial banks, but the retail are going to be using stable coins? Because I've been hearing more and more that's kind of the model. And here in the United States, Congress has put out some bills saying no CBDC issued directly to citizens. So it seems like stable coins are going to be the retail.
I think there'll probably be both. So I do think you'll sort of have a CBDC element in a wallet somewhere, but it might be $100 or something. The rest of it, as you say, will be wholesale commercial bank money, which will be your digital dollar sort of thing. So I think countries will make different decisions on the CBDC, the retail CBDC. So me and you holding it in our wallets. ECB looks as though they'll do it, as you say. Congress, different opinions, and obviously government change may be coming, so we don't know yet. But it seems as though they're suggesting no at the moment, but we don't know. So it will be limited anyway. It'll be capped anyway, because the central banks don't want to be dealing with your wallet and your issues of losing your keys, and it's not what they do. They don't do that. They don't deal with people. They deal with the banks, as the banks that we deal with. So I personally, for me, I see a very clear model going through to commercial banks, wholesale banking, as you mentioned. That's what we'll be using. That's the digital dollar or digital euro that we'll use, and it'll be managed by our commercial bank.
What are your thoughts on Ripple launching a stable coin? I think it's called rlusd. It's coming up sometime this year.
Yeah, I think it's great to launch a stablecoin. I think at the moment, good things are happening in stablecoins. So, it's the future, stablecoins. Whether Ripple is as good or better than PayPal or Circle, etc. It's all around user adoption and what we as the people and businesses decide to do. So I think, there's still a long way to go before we get to that. I think stablecoins are such a low percentage of the money out there. But there's lots of, companies trying this, lots of banks trying this. So it's not just Ripple, it's many others. But it's definitely an interesting step forward, and, looking forward to the launch later on this year.
Hard question. What is your timeline for when you think we might see CBDCs out in the markets? Is it 5 years from now?
The big countries, so if you take US, Europe, UK, Japan, I think it's probably getting near 10 years. I don't see the countries actually getting themselves sorted in enough time, unless there's some big crisis that means it happens sooner, which may or may not happen. So I just don't see, there's lots of progress, but the politics is getting involved, and politics never speeds things up. Politics always slows it down. So if you take, we're not even there yet with what it would look like and how it would work. So the politics is going to destroy it at some, not destroy it, but slow it down at some stage. Where you will see CBDCs are the likes of the sort of other countries, be it Latam, Africa, and some of the Asia countries. You know, all of those are sort of progressing quite well. Brazil was doing very well, but they're slowing down from a technology perspective at the moment. But I think once they get that fixed, they'll move forward. So I think some countries are just going to go for it quicker because it's less risk to them. It's more needed. You know, some of this is about if you've got a big physical country and you know you're a poorer nation, it's very difficult to get money around and make it happen.
Mm.
A digital currency in whatever format, stablecoin or CBDC, means people can just interact straight away, and it really does that. And you saw that with the Ripple Palau project, where it really helped some of the, it's a very small project, you know, only a few hundred people used it, but it showed that it was really easy for people to pay for things. It was, you know, and the back end of it, the money's just flowing very quickly and closing at the end of the day and settling and stuff. So it was a nice, easy process. Now, Palau is a very small, you know, island nation, so scale it up. But it showed that it can happen, and it does. And you know, Nigeria's been doing trials, which I'm not sure entirely whether that's moved forward again. But I think definitely Brazil and Switzerland are the two. If you're going to watch who's going to do it first, I'd put my money on probably Switzerland, just because
Yeah.
they know how to get things done and they're less political. They're very, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
they're very outcome. And I think Brazil, if they can get through, they've got this tech hurdle at the moment they're just working on. And I think if they get through that, and the politics is okay, positive for it, which is seems to be okay, then. But yeah, I think for Europe, UK, USA, I'd say I think it's realistically 10 years.
Mm.
But
Anthony.
let's hope for a surprise.
Yeah, for sure. It's fascinating. I'm very intrigued by the timeline and when these things will roll out. Obviously, I'm passionate about the technology and how it's going to change people's lives and so forth. And you know what you're doing at the CBRC is certainly helping to educate the masses, helping people to adopt blockchain. So helping to speed things up a bit, right?
Hopefully, yes.
Awesome. I got some wrap-up questions here for you.
Oh,
First, if you could create your own metaverse, what would the theme be?
I think the metaverse for me would be around just being nice and generally, you know, happy and doing positive things. So instead of negative news,
Mm.
we share what was positive today, and just get people a bit more happy. And there's amazing things in life, but mainstream news and things is always what went wrong. And I'd have a metaverse that's a happy metaverse.
Mm. And rapid fire questions. Favorite food,
Sushi.
favorite musician or band?
Has to be Madonna, especially after at her age doing Copacabana with 1.8 million fans is impressive at her age. You know,
Yeah,
gotta
at
say.
her age. Yeah. Favorite movie.
Devil Wears Prada.
Mm. Favorite book.
Well, I was going to say Thinking Crypto, the one behind you, but I'll have to say Commercializing Blockchain.
Mm, for sure. I'll put a link to your book, by the way, for everyone to check it out. And
Thank you.
what are you doing for fun for as a hobby?
So I live in Portugal, so there's lots of outdoor and sunshine. Although this year it's July and it's only just started the summer. Everybody thinks we live in the sunshine every day and the rest of it. It's, you know, not too bad, but it's not sunny all the time here. So we've got outdoors now, and also I love F1 as well, and some really interesting things happening in F1 at the moment, which is always good to watch. So yeah.
Awesome. Anthony, pleasure chatting with you, and we'll have to have you back on as things progress with the CBRC, but thank you so much for joining me.
Definitely. Thanks for your time, Tony, and thanks, viewers.